What's up guys, Justin Morgan here, and this video is going to talk about the subject of meal timing as it applies to muscle growth and that kind of thing. Sports performance, athletic performance, strength, kind of all around those areas. So this is a subject that comes up every now and then, probably a couple times a year. It's discussed, or somebody in the fitness community kind of gets on the kick of meal timing. Now, if you look at some fairly good diet coaches and diet organizations like Renaissance Periodization, they have created kind of a template on the dynamics of how these different components and different elements of dieting, the magnitudes of how they apply to the diet as a whole. And meal timing is not really low, but is also not really high. So there are some ways that meal timing can greatly affect both muscular gains and fat loss. Probably not in the way that people often want to jump to or jump on, though. The biggest thing is that the more you increase the frequency of meals, the more total calories you're able to ingest. So if you are trying to grow muscle, you're trying to increase you're trying to get bigger, trying to get stronger, trying to increase your athletic performance, then increasing total calorie intake can be very valuable. As opposed to most people that are very sedentary, they work in very sedentary jobs and offices, kind of like the one that I'm in right now. The problem in that case is usually that they ingest too many calories because they are very sedentary, except for maybe an hour or two a day when they train. So that basically describes my lifestyle. I sit at a desk, I walk to patients' rooms and visit patients, and then I'm kind of back to my desk again. So most of my day is spent sitting. Sometimes I'm up walking around, but this is kind of negligible compared to the amount of time that I actually spend sitting. Then I go home and I eat a snack and I train for usually somewhere between 1 and 2 hours per day. So that's really not a lot compared to the amount of time that I spend sitting. So my calorie intake probably doesn't need to be as high as, like, say, Michael Phelps, but it's probably higher than the average person that isn't going home and training for 1 to 2 hours a day. So my total calorie intake is around 3,500, and that's kind of what I maintain. I usually eat between 4 and 5 meals per day to get that. So that's one area that you can increase your frequency as a way to increase the amount of total calories that you ingest. If you are trying to lose weight, it can also be beneficial to eat more than, say, 1 or 2 times a day, because the tendency for people is that they become very hungry, and it makes it very difficult for them to avoid very high calorie foods that would offset the amount of time that they've spent. So if you're saying I'm gonna skip breakfast, I'm gonna skip lunch, and then you end up eating a lot of really high calorie foods after lunch because you skip those meals, then you might end up eating more calories than if you had just eaten breakfast and lunch and been satiated enough that you could control yourself. So there's a lot of variety for different people that is going to apply differently depending on you and how controlled you are. So generally somewhere between 3 and 6 meals is probably good. If you're eating more than 6 meals, that's probably not necessary unless you just really have a desire to do that. It's probably not going to offer you any benefit, either psychologically in maintaining your diet or in actually being able to eat more calories if that's your goal. And likewise, if you are trying to eat fewer calories, eating less than 3 meals probably isn't going to help you out very much psychologically in terms of being able to maintain whatever type of diet you're trying to follow. So those are just some ideas. I don't think that, as far as metabolically speaking, that there's any benefits to eating more or less calories. It really boils down to how many total calories that you eat per day. If you eat a large meal, then you have a very big metabolic reaction as a result of that. If you eat more smaller meals throughout the day, then you have smaller metabolic reactions from eating those foods. So you don't really get this like increase in metabolism that people used to kind of perpetuate. That's never really been shown to have a net benefit over the course of the day, even though that when you actually eat, it does speed up your metabolism, but that's because you're digesting the food, not because like there's something more to it than that. Total, when clinical groups have studied people that ate very few frequency meals during the day versus very large frequency meals during the day, the only real thing that showed a difference was how many total calories they ate. So that's it. If you like the video, click like. If you would like to keep getting more videos, then make sure you click subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.